Hello, this recording is about the lymphatic system. There are 3 modules in the lymph system, and this is number 1. We are going to talk about the lymph and the lymph organs, which is very rapid because there's not very many, and functions of the lymph system. The really only main organ of the lymph system is the spleen, and even that you can live without. Maybe you don't have a great immune system and have to be really careful about other stuff, about catching stuff, but you can actually live without a spleen. The lymph nodes, which you've probably had a doctor feel, the lymph nodes possibly in your neck or under your arm, are all throughout the body and act like little filters connected by ducts, which eventually the fluid in them, lymph fluid, dumps into the cardiovascular system. They're pretty much named for the body region they're located in. They don't have specific names other than that. The 3 functions of the lymph system are to 1, return fluid to the cardiovascular system, which is going to be the focus of this particular module. Fight off infection, the immune system, which is the biggest part and is module 2. And also carries fat from the digestive system to the blood. Fat doesn't diffuse directly from the gut into the blood, but goes through the lymph to get to the blood. And we'll talk about that mostly when we get to the digestive system. So you can see in this little picture here, the yellow finger-like projections are the lymph ducts or vessels. They're dead end, they're one-way system, and fluid goes into them, shown here by the arrows, and kind of works like a siphon, and it kind of just moseys on down the lymph vessels to the ducts and eventually dumps into the subclavian veins. So in this picture here, you can see that the fluid that gets pushed out of the capillary, most of it gets back into the venule end of the capillary, like we just discussed in the cardiovascular system. But about 10% of the fluid that gets pushed out right here in the arterial end of the capillary doesn't get back into the capillary. It goes into these lymph vessels. And they're just kind of, again, a passive movement just by pressure. As the lymph fluid here leaves, more comes in from the interstitial fluid. So if you looked at interstitial fluid, it would look like plasma or cytoplasm. It's not red because it doesn't have blood cells in it. It's kind of a clear yellowish fluid, kind of like pus. So it contains everything that would be in plasma except the blood cell, the red blood cells, and of course the large plasma proteins should stay in the capillary. And it moves completely passively. So it goes into these ducts. There are some backflow valves that help prevent it from going the other direction. But lymph movement is just passive. It's like a siphon. As it gets dumped into the blood, it kind of pulls more up. Also, you can do some things to help lymph move, just moving yourself. So the capillaries leak out this fluid. Some of it gets put into the lymph vessels, which merges into the ducts, and it dumps into the right lymphatic duct, dumps into the right subclavian vein, and the thoracic duct, left lymphatic duct, dumped into the left. But the drainage isn't even. The top right side of the body dumps into the right subclavian vein, and the top left side and the whole bottom half of the body dump into the left side. I don't know why that it's so different, but it is. It's not symmetrical. If the fluid doesn't move through the vessels and get back into the blood, it can build up in the tissues and cause lymphedema, which isn't too healthy. If there's a lot of pressure, it can press on nerves, which makes it painful for the person. This is elephantitis. It's a parasite that you get, particularly in Africa, in the water. It gets in and it destroys your lymph system, and the fluid just builds and builds and builds. That can be deadly. So connective tissue will stretch and you never really go back to shape. I have a little bit of lymphedema in my right arm because lymph nodes were removed when I had a mastectomy, and they don't grow back. So I have less circulation or less fluid, able to remove fluid from that arm. So I have a compression sleeve I wear, especially if I fly or if it's really hot. Sometimes I'll do that because heat will increase fluid movement into your arm because you're trying to cool yourself. Lymph nodes act like little filters, so all along the way, the fluid goes through these nodes and white blood cells there clean up the mess. You have a bunch of different lymph tissue in your respiratory system and digestive system because the air and the food that we eat isn't sterile. Mucus-associated lymph tissue is MALT, that's found in the respiratory system, and gut-associated lymph tissue is found in the digestive system. It used to be called Peyer's patches. Your tonsils are also enlarged lymph nodes. All of these catch in the bugs, catch in pathogens, broken cells, cancerous cells, and the white blood cells inside of those nodes clean them up. So there's no pump to move fluid around. It moves completely passively, kind of like a siphon, but you taking deep breaths, walking around, contracting muscles, all improve lymph fluid movement. So when you feel like you're getting sick, you really should take a walk rather than sit on the couch and put a blanket over your head. It's better to move around to get that fluid and all the bad bugs and viruses or whatever caught by those lymph nodes, and the white blood cells there will destroy them. If lymph fluid is not returned to the cardiovascular system itself will lose fluid, but the tissues will gain it, and you'll get kind of puffy and swollen, and you'll have a drop in blood pressure because of the lack of the fluid or decreased body volume or blood volume. So you should be able to describe lymph fluid, what it looks like, the basic structure, and explain how lymph moves. This is a nice quick little introduction to the lymph system. Module 2 will be more about the immune system, and that's where the heavy stuff is.